Nau mai haere mai to the Whāki podcast, which invites people like yourself from all walks of life to converse about various access to equity within the context of Aotearoa. We invite you and our beautiful, amazing, well-connected guests today to share lived experiences in an effort to find common threads within support systems, social networks, and knowledge that uplifts the collective human plight. Kelsey, what's our season 2 question?
So this season we are looking into what does equity and knowledge look like for various communities coexisting within one society. And as tauiwi in Aotearoa, we recognise the mana whenua and kaitiaki of these lands. Maluseo and I have experienced most of our growth in the Waikato and want to honour Ngāti Haua, Ngāti Mahana and Ngāti Wairere. We're grateful for the connections our whakapapa weave through and for us to be able to connect and grow with community through the whākiu kaupapa. Maluseo and I would also like to honour our queer ancestors who fought for our rights and visibility as equitable citizens of the world. Kia ora, my name is Kelsey and I use they, them pronouns.
Ni Sambolovi Naka whakalofalahi atu ko Maluseo tōku ingoa, and people use he, him pronouns for me and I'm fine with that. And today we have someone that we really literally just started fostering a connection with, and we at the Whākiu don't actually like to introduce our guests because we want to give them the time to actually tell us who they are in their fashion and in their way. So please, if you could tell us your name, and then finish the sentence I am as well as your pronouns.
All right. Kia ora, hello, talofa. My name is Tony O'Rourke. I am a 32-year-old, half Samoan, Pākehā, brought up in a Māori family. And I live in the beautiful small town of Te Kaupata at the moment, in the mighty Waikato. I am a youth worker, musician, singer-songwriter, producer, and I just love everything creative, and I just love helping people. That's a lot about who I am, and and I guess and my pronouns are he, him pronouns. Yeah.
Kapai. So good.
Honestly, thank you so much for jumping in this because we really like when we say we fresh, but we really not. We really not.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, fam. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for so just a bit of a whakapapa of our collective story. We were connected to Tony through someone else and then had a Zoom call, and then the next day we caught up and just straight in the deep end within the first half an hour. It was so good. And that was a couple weeks ago.
Only a couple weeks ago. Then we were hanging out on the weekend.
Yeah. And then lockdown. Yeah. But yeah, so blessed, honestly, Tony. It's been insane. Yeah. So good.
My mission from the start was to get a spot on the podcast, and I achieved that pretty quickly.
Mission achieved.
You dog. You played us. Wow.
Nah.
Cool, thanks. That's the end of the podcast now.
Yeah. Cool.
And we're done. So we are curious. You've mentioned a couple of pieces around youth work, around your whānau, around your whakapapa and your ancestry. So we're curious if there's any other communities that you add value to, or that are in your space that you want to mention and bring up.
Yeah, awesome. I guess probably one that I didn't mention was I'm a real big man of faith. So my faith community is probably just as important, if not more important, than a lot of those other things I mentioned. I stepped foot into a church when I was 15-year-old, little rugged kid that was getting into a lot of trouble with some of the dudes he was hanging around with. And got to say, man, being around good people, being around a good faith community, just really, I can pretty much say that it saved my life, man, changed my life, saved my life, and wouldn't be the man I am today, both without God and without people that God has put into my life, including you two, really just to help kind of, I guess, expand my my reach, and also just to have cool people in my life, man. And it's been a long time. So I'm 32 now, like I said, so that was a good 17 years ago. And you know how it is, it hasn't been all uphill that whole time. I haven't been living on the mountains that whole time. There's definitely been some valley moments, some moments where I have been angry at God or at people of God, and you know, had that kind of vibe. And but at the moment where we are now, you know, I'm really, really thankful for a lot of things. And so I'd say probably as well as some of those things that I mentioned, my faith community and all my bros and sisters that I've been journeying with in that space have been a big part of who I am today. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're so thankful for that. We literally is, and we actually had the opportunity to join your church service, and that to me was very it was very healing. Like, thank you so much for the invitation, and at the same time, thank you for opening up space for community, because there was a lot of people that I recognized and I was already connected to, and at the same time there was I could definitely feel that people were there to heal themselves and to fill themselves with the joy and the blessings of God. And to me, I'm like, that's potent. Like, regardless of my opinions or regardless of my experiences in the past, in that moment, potent. And that's really what I held on to that, because I'm like, that was actually the first time I've been into church in a long time, actually. And it was the connection that you made that really feed me into that space, because I'm like, it's the people that I trust, not so much the whakaaro and the noise. So that was my experience. But Kelsey, you?
I've always had an interesting relationship with faith. My whānau has did a little bit of church shopping every now and then when I was little. We attended Mormon church for a while, and some of my whānau's Mormon. And the service that we attended with you and your people was probably one of the first times that I really felt comfortable in a space like that. Wow. And I really liked having the children running around. I made friends, and they were so cute. And I got to kani with one of them, and oh my God, she was so beautiful. And just I think having the children there and just running around, because in other church spaces that I've been in, the children go and do other things. And for me, having the children there made it a more, I don't know, it just connected me more into the space. And
cool.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. And they're such gorgeous children. They were.
Awesome. No, that's cool.
The first time
that's really good feedback.
Yeah, that I'd ever really felt so comfortable in a church environment. So thank you. It was amazing.
No, all good. And I guess I want to say too, you guys actually really challenged me in that area, because technically I didn't ask you if you wanted to come. I know you guys are like, thanks for the invite. But I remember Malu saying, yeah, we'll come. I just said, because you guys were hiring out the space, and I was like, yeah, just so you know, we have church here on Sunday, and then Malu was just like, yeah, we'll come. So technically, we should be thanking you, Malu, because but it really challenged me to be like, why? I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, why didn't I ask you if you wanted to come? There was no reason. It was just kind of that's. Sometimes I get so caught up in because I'm involved in the leadership of it. So sometimes I could just get so caught up in the logistics and in the thing, making sure that the things happen, and forgetting that it's about people and it's about everyone. And so, thank you for challenging me in that way. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, he's so cute. We just totally had a love potion. We just dived into that love potion right there. Season 2 is very much about knowledge, and we wanted to privilege knowledge. So I guess the most appropriate way to start this is actually to ask you, what is knowledge to you, and how in its entirety. So what does knowledge look like to you? What does knowledge moved for you? What is knowledge for Tony?
Yeah, woo, that's a pretty loaded question. But I think the first thing I thought of about when you said that around knowledge is for me, knowledge is, well, let me put it like this. I feel like a lot of people see knowledge as learned skills, and it totally is. But a lot of people, I think, see that it can only be those things. Purposeful, time that you've put aside to learn a skill. that's knowledge, and it is. But I think knowledge can be so more. I think knowledge can be lived experience. Knowledge can be going through storms in your life, and coming out the other end stronger. And you're not only coming out stronger, but you're coming out with more knowledge on how to approach situations and how to approach circumstances and who to lean on and who not to lean on. And I think knowledge is such a massive thing that we all have, and then I feel like every day our knowledge grows either and I think knowledge, it's always for the better. So you make a mistake, you learn from it. And that's knowledge. That's your knowledge expanding there. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that again because that happened last time. your knowledge is kind of growing in that sense. But I think if you were to ask me personally, what does it mean to me? It's my experience. I think it's the things that I've done, the time that I've put into things has really shaped the knowledge I have on things. And I say that because I feel like you could look at my CV and you could not you wouldn't see a whole lot of qualifications, right? And I'm being honest here, okay? You wouldn't see a whole lot of qualifications, but and it's taken me a long time to get to this point of confidence in saying this about myself, but I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what there's things that I do that maybe I didn't complete study for, I didn't get a degree for, but I've been doing it for so long that I'm good at what I do. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that as an ego thing, and I'm not saying that as a big-headed thing, but really I'm just over people comparing themselves to other people and putting themselves down for it. And I'm always going to do that, like I am. I might sound super confident right now, but I think this is just a moment where I have to be confident in who I am and kind of some of the things that I've achieved. And for me, that's where my level of knowledge comes from, and it comes from understanding that I've been through stuff and I've learned stuff, and it may not be academically academically noticed or academically shown with a certificate or degree, but there's definitely things there through experience that I've learned. Yeah. That's a whole lot of
No, that was bomb. That was bomb. Thank you.
That reminds me of I'm pretty sure it was Dujon last season said, build the person, not the CV.
Yeah, great.
And I think that your story that you've just shared is the embodiment of that, of how can we build people with skills and knowledge and the ability to articulate something, rather than building their CV to look like they can do those things. How do we actually build that person to be able to do that?
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah,
and the weird tension is that so many jobs or so many employers look at the CV. And that's the tension, because you have to either have the qualifications or you have to I guess be known well enough for the employers to be like, yeah, I know who you are, or that kind of thing, or like, you kind of got to know people in this industry to get there, But I think we're at a bit of a change in the times. I think that experience is being a lot more noticed, and I think that building the person is actually starting to, I guess, come forward a little bit more than just the CV, and I hope to see more of that. And I think the more our employers start understanding that, and not just employers, I'm talking about like people that give grants, people that give funding, there are tons of people in the community that don't have written academic qualifications that are just world-class people, and that understand
Thank
things.
you.
And I'm hoping that those times continue to change. Yeah.
It's potent. But like, to me, I'm like, everything that you've shared is potent. And it's such a koha, and it is a massive mirror of your walk. Because to me, I'm like, well, I'm very interested when you said, like, the way that you said, I'm good at what I do. Like, to me, I'm like, can you give us a little bit of the whakapapa of that? Like, you did say it's taken you a long time. Can you just stretch on that for us?
Yeah. I thought you'd never ask. No, no. Man, okay. If I'm to give, probably my main example, it's probably my music. So I've been singing and songwriting, playing instruments for a long time, for probably almost 20 years, and I remember in intermediate school, intermediate, and I'm taking it right back, right? Intermediate school, right? Most primaries nowadays have intermediates.
Aye.
So like you don't even, some people might not even know what an intermediate school is, but basically intermediate was back then it was Form 1 and 2, but year 7 and 8, and I remember auditioning for my school choir. Now I wasn't by any means a singer, but I knew that I saw people singing on stage and I saw people entertaining others and people laughing and people joining in and smiling, and I knew that I wanted some of that. And so I auditioned for my school choir, and I was like, cool, it's we're all young, surely it's gonna be, they'll let me in, blah blah blah. Anyway, I get to my music room at some lunchtime, whatever it was, and the teacher basically just asked me to sing la 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 la, right, and just like scale up and down, and so I did it, and then afterwards she basically said to me, Tony, you should stick to playing rugby. yeah she said, I'll never forget it, man. She said, Tony, you should probably just stick to playing rugby because you're good at that. And then she went on to say, you'll never make it as a singer.
Far out.
Is what she said. Yeah, you'll never make it. And I'm sitting there like, I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, I believe you. I believe you because you're my teacher, and I'm meant to believe you. To take that story further, that night or later that week, I went home, and there's a little bit of me that's kind of like, oh, nah, I'm just gonna carry on with it. Who cares what she said? There was a little bit of that in me, a little bit of that fight, which was good. And I remember just singing my heart out later that night in my room, with on my cassette player. It must have been like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something like that. Yeah. And I remember my mum like walking into my room, and not just walking into my room, she came in, like kicked the door down almost. And I just remember her just being like, shut up. Like, and I was singing really loud. That's probably why. And to be fair, it might have been like 11, 12 at night, maybe. So that's like, I just wanted to put that out there.
Creative hour.
And I just remember feeling, if my teacher's saying that, if my mum's saying that, I'm going to believe it. And so basically from the next day, I was a 12-year-old. From the next day, I decided that I was never going to pursue anything to do with music again. Basically because of what those people had said about me. So basically from what happened the next day is I decided, nah, I'm not going to do any of that. And fast forward like maybe 6 or 7 years. Okay, I'm at the end of high school now. Haven't really touched music throughout that time. I've gone to like the compulsory music classes, and then I come to the end of high school, and there's this guy that comes to my school as a bit of a motivational speaker, and he's one of those guys like, if you reach for the stars, you can. If you fall, you'll land in the clouds. Like those kind of ones. And I just remember feeling so inspired, and I was like, man, I'm gonna, and I thought about music again, and I was like, man, this is something that I really want to do. It's something that I really want to do, and it just so happened that there was a church in Auckland, right? And it's Equippers, the church that I go to, Equippers Church, and they were holding this thing called Project X, and Project X is basically like an 8-week creative arts program where you'd go after school every day, and at the end of the 8 weeks, you'd put on a show. That was basically it for young people, and so I was like, this is cool. And, I'd just been inspired by this guy. And it just so happened that same day, someone had asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I just did it, picking up some confidence, made it all the way to the end, which was great. And funnily enough, that's kind of what started the faith journey for me. So music is also linked to my faith, which is just this real interesting connection. anyway, all of that happened. I decided later on that year that I was going to go to a school called Excel School of Performing Arts, and that was massive for me. I hadn't had any training because of all the years that I had just kind of not wanted to go anywhere near music. I got into the school, and long story short, at the end of the year, I got the award for the top male vocalist for the year, which was, and again, man, I'm not saying this to be like, look at me, top male vocalist. I'm really saying that to just be like, I am living proof, right? That no matter what people say to you, you have the power to change, that outcome. You have the power to change what, where your life ends up. And I remember just that flicked the switch for me. I was a part of like a barbershop quartet at the time, and we went and we ended up performing at Christmas in the Park, which was huge. Like, that's the biggest crowd you can get in New Zealand, 200,000 people live, and then another million on TV. But I remember that audition process, and this part's really important. That audition process to get into that was crazy, because we sang, and it's kind of like X Factor, where there's like 3 judges, and one of them kind of said to us after the thing, they said, "Oh, do I know you?" And then I was like, "Oh, you look a little bit familiar." And then I realized one of the ladies on the judging panel was my intermediate school teacher, my music teacher, the one that had said that I should stick to rugby. I know. And I just remember we started talking, and we kind of, it was weird because the other boys were like all there for the audition with me, and then me and this teacher went off kind of talking, and she was just like, "Man, you really improved, kind of what you've been up to," and I kind of just wanted to be like, "Yeah, shame on you," but the nice guy in me, I guess, was just like, "Nah, I've been doing this and this and this, and are you still teaching?" and blah blah blah, just started talking, and the funny thing is that we're still kind of friends now, me and this teacher, and a couple years later, actually, I started to teach her kids how to sing, which was quite interesting. So I went from being the student she told that would never make it as a singer, to being the guy that she paid to teach her children how to sing, which is
what was that like healing journey with her like? Because I can imagine that there was some mum there when she said, "Do I know you?" And you're like, actually.
Yeah. Good question. There
what
definitely
was. That
was.
like? Yeah.
There definitely was, but I think healing is a choice that you have to make, even when there isn't a sorry attached to it.
Okay, you need to say that one more time, because that was a major key. I'm going to take my jacket off for that.
Yeah.
Like, you what?
I feel like healing is a choice you need to make before there's a sorry attached to it. For me, I had forgiven her. Even before I had seen her again, and I think that helped. I think if I hadn't have forgiven her, then that could have gone a very different way, that meeting. If I was the same angry little 15-year-old boy that I once was, I think it definitely could have gone a different way. But I had years of healing in that space, in that years of realizing that what people said about me doesn't define who I am, therefore doesn't define how I react to things, how I treat people even. That's a big one too. And so by the time I had finally reached that moment, I had done a lot of that healing already. And so the healing process with her was literally like okay, cool, this is what I'm doing now, and it's great to see you again. And I'm not going to lie and say that I'm perfect and say that there wasn't a little bit of, like, and that's why I said before, I was like, I wanted to say like, yeah, shame, look at me now. There was a little bit of that, and there will be, because I'm a human, and I just think that I'm really thankful that through people that helped me in my journey throughout that time really helped that healing process. And so let me just say, to answer your question, it was a lot easier by that point in time because of the healing that had taken place before she had even said sorry for what she said, which she did say that. So that's a bit of my, and that's why I'm such an advocate with young people and music. And I want to make it clear too, I'm not dogging teachers at all. I love teachers.
100.
I love teachers. But it's anyone who has the power of life out of their tongue also has the power of death. And I think that it's so important. And the reason why I got into youth work was to encourage young people to reach their dreams, to achieve their goals. And I was saying to you guys earlier, I've got a single coming out in 2 weeks. I suppose when this podcast is out, it'll already be out. So you can go look it up, Tony Jacobs, Spotify or Apple Music. And
we'll link it. We'll link it.
And but this song is literally called Believe. And Just One Step. Well, it's called Just One Step. But the tagline is Believe. And the main line of it is, you can move mountains with just one step. You can change the world. And with no regrets, imagine what you could achieve if you just believe.
Hey.
And that's the chorus of the song. And so this little story that I've told you in about 10 minutes has really, I guess, echoed through my life and everything that I do. All the music that I do now. I don't want to write music just for music's sake. I want to write music so that it inspires people. And actually, that's harder. It's a lot harder than writing, booty, 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 rocking everywhere, or like, other.
Is that not inspiring?
Well, I suppose
some
it
people
depends
it
who you
might
are.
be. Yeah.
But,
damn, like I had my inspirational walk.
and I, again, I'm not dogging anyone that makes that kind of music, because whatever puts bread and butter on your table.
Come on.
That is literally a job for people, right? But for me, my music, is something that took me from a place to the place where I am now, and the place where I'm going. It's still taking me places, and I never want to. I'm always believing that there are other young Tonys out there that need someone like me to encourage them along the way and to be part of their healing process too.
Hey.
Yeah.
Echo everything.
Yeah.
That's so on, man.
And then and because if I hadn't have done some of that stuff, and like the stuff I'm doing with music now, it's literally not just singing and songwriting music. I kind of co-music directed a theatre show at the ASB Waterfront Theatre earlier this year called Maui, with Fresh Movement, who is a dance company, and we put on this sold out show for a week in the Aotea, in the Waterfront Theatre in Auckland. And so I'm venturing more into kind of theatre and doing stuff like that. And we've got like a fully booked year with tours next year and the Civic Theatre and just stuff like that. So yeah, there's lots of stuff that's kind of stemming from my music. And I was telling these guys earlier that I like to expand my creativity and not just include music stuff. And so yeah, there's lots happening. But like I said, it's been a long journey. And I understand that journey's going to get longer. But yeah, I always remind myself, if I hadn't have decided to give it a go again, how different would my life be today?
Yeah.
Because literally, I work for Zeal here in Kiridoa, and we basically run creative programs for young people. And I can basically say like that if I hadn't had gone down that creative path, I wouldn't be doing this mahi.
Aye.
I don't know how involved I would even be with young people, because if I couldn't believe in myself, why would I even try and believe in other people?
Oh, yeah.
And so like there's lots there. There really is. Yeah.
What I hear is from your story over the last, from intermediate through to now to meeting that teacher, blah, 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 is that music has always kind of been a vehicle for you to acquire knowledge and to expand into different spaces and move through the world and through your knowledge.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then going even back to the first question about what is knowledge to you, that is my knowledge. That's what I know. And like I said,
Yeah.
I don't have a degree on performing at Christmas in the Park, or I've got music qualifications, but I don't have it. I don't have things that would basically, I don't rely on my qualifications to talk about kind of my experiences with music and with shows and things like that. I have picked up a lot of that knowledge along the way. So yes, 100% agree with you, Kels.
Yeah. By doing, right? Rather than...
By doing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think particularly in the creative arts, I've seen young people get caught up, in our old job. Maluseo and I used to go into high schools and talk to young people about what they want to do after school in regards to tertiary study. And there were some young people that I would come up and have conversations with, and that wanted to get into the arts, and that, I need a degree, I need this, I need that. I'm like, you can, but this is also an industry where you don't have to have that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But there's so much value placed on qualifications and degrees and from this place or that place, and I'm like, you already know all the things you need to know.
There is.
Yeah.
There's a real, and you guys would have noticed this if that was your mahi, then you'll notice this, that there's a lot of it stems from family. A lot of it stems from your parents. Not all of it. I mean, I had a lot of friends, especially the Pacifica and Māori, friends that had family that would say the other extreme and say that no, you've done your school. That's your study. Okay, after school you go and work and you help contribute to rent. So there's that side, and then there's the other side where parents would be like, you've finished school, so of course you're going to go to university. That's just what you do.
Yeah, it's the only option.
That's the only option, right? Yeah. And so for me, I'm really lucky. I know I talked about my mum earlier and said that there was, there were times when I thought that she didn't support me, but man, my mum is my number one fan, in everything that I do. I'm the biggest mama's boy in the world.
Let's go.
And so she supported me in every sphere of this. And she was really, really awesome. When I left school, she was like, what do you want to do? It's up to you. You can live here. I just want you to look out for you. And so I was really lucky in that, because I understand that people don't always have parents like that. Some people don't even have parents that they can talk to about that stuff. And so I was really lucky, really blessed to have a mum that understood me that way. Yeah.
What's your mum's name?
Kelly is her name.
Let's go.
Kia ora,
Shout out
Kelly.
Kelly.
Vinaka Vakalevu Kelly.
You did a good job, Kelly.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
Oh, we don't know yet. His journey hasn't finished yet. Hey, we don't know yet.
Done a good job so far.
So far.
Thank you. Yep. I'll claim that one.
Yeah.
All right. So, what knowledge do you hold very, very dearly to your body, to your mind, to your soul, or to your heart? What's the knowledge that you really that's really music is there 100%, and then what other different nuances of knowledge that you hold close to your body, that you hold close to your mind, that you hold close to your soul and your heart, just to afi your journey, and I guess we did just talk about your journey being this far, and then it's the next journey. What knowledge are you going to actually hold on to guide you through the next phase?
Yeah, yeah, cool. I mean, I think there's a few things there. One of them would be just the knowledge that that I have family, and that I have people that are doing this with me. I think is massive. Throughout that whole journey of my music stuff, there were a lot of times where I felt isolated and I felt alone and I felt like no one was in it with me. But in this kind of second half of my life, let me say, there's been a real I guess sense that I have a village behind me, I have a whole tribe behind me, I have ancestors behind me. And it's funny, we were talking about this earlier, guys, that that I really do have kind of ancestors that standing on the shoulders of people that were dreaming for their extended generations to be in a space where I am now, a space where I have a roof over my head, of my own place with my family, my immediate family, my son and my wife and my other kid on the way. I was going to say other son, but we don't know yet for another few weeks. My other kid on the way. We, to have a job that I have that's secure in such an uncertain environment with COVID-19, to have, friends, that I can talk to about anything, to have a church community that I can go to that can help me with prayer and with whatever. I think I'm just incredibly blessed. And so the knowledge that there are people there for me has been massive in I guess me carrying on and just moving forward, because there are so many things in life today that tell you to stop or tell you that you don't need to carry on, and that if you give up, you don't have to feel the pain. Mm-hmm. But I think family for me has been, or just people in general have been almost like the light at the end of the tunnel to say, like, if I, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also doing it for them, and I'm running forward towards them. So that's definitely that kind of some of that knowledge. But probably another one for me is kind of what I alluded to before, and just something, and it's probably the thing I hold dearest to myself, is just kind of belief. Now, I don't know if you guys done strength finders, but my number one strength is belief as well. And it's just like something that I've always held so close to myself. And sometimes it's affected me in the negative sense, is that I believe in others too much, and sometimes I can get hurt from that. But I think it's taken me a while to realize that there is a negative side, and but it's what I do with that matters. See, I don't really care, because when I believe in people, when I believe in things, it's not for them, it's for me, and it's almost like forgiveness. And I know you guys have probably heard the cliche that people say around forgiveness, that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you, and it's about releasing that for you. And like some people say that forgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. And for me, believing in other people doesn't only uplift them, but it actually uplifts my mana too. It's mana enhancing for myself. And so that's why I do it. And that's, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, like, does that sound a little bit selfish? Well, maybe, but I do genuinely care about other people as well. But I think that's been something that's kind of kept me going as well. Just the belief that I have in others, and it's actually helped fuel the fire of belief for myself.
Let's go.
As well. I think that's been really important too. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question. But there's lots of things, I think. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of things that will stem out of belief as well. Like, and I totally resonate with your whakaaro around it. And so I'm glad that you answered yourself in terms of being like, I don't know if it's good or not. And then it's like, you answered yourself of being like, actually for me, and to me, I echo that 100%, because to me, I'm like, it's the same thing it's the same whakaaro that I have around values, because I'm like, how people react and treat you is a reflection of their values, not mine. So like, to me, I'm like, I'm gonna love you regardless. And it's like, you might not feel like you're loved, or you might not think that you're being loved. And I'm like, I don't have to tell you that I love you. I don't have to show you. Inside, I love you. Inside, I love you. And I'm like, you're like, on the inside, you believe in people. And I'm like, that's a reflection. And I loved when you were like, it's mana enhancing to do that, because I'm like, yo, it's 100% affirming, and it almost like concretes my fundamental belief of love when I just gift love without it. And I'm like, it's not even like, I'm like, I don't even know how this is going to return. And this Kelsey and I have been going through a season of being like, we're not here for the reciprocal love in the one lane, dimensional lane. We're like, we're here for the reciprocal love on many, many fashions. And I'm like, our love has got us to you, and we're so thankful for that. And awesome. we really we really felt your belief in us as well, because like they could have been, you could have pawned us off and like closed your door and shut your gates to our kaupapa, and it's valid. Like, to me, I'm like, we understand that for a lot of people, they don't want to privilege their whākī conversation, they don't want to engage that, and it's because I think there is a discourse and feeling and thinking that you have to have the skills or the knowledge to do these things, and I'm like, actually, you know how to waka yourself there and waka yourself out. We literally, what is the word, Kelsey? What's the word?
Discernment. To be able to discern. Yeah.
Bro, echoing what you were saying. Like, I was nervous to come into this chat today. Nervous as I've never done a podcast before, so I'm being very, very open about that, and then this is very kind of vulnerable for me. Like I've another side, and we can get to this later, but just feeling like I can't articulate myself properly, that I'm not a good speaker. Now this is weird because I in the previous job I got paid to be a public speaker, like that was my previous job, but even now there are still thoughts in my head like, you're going to mess up, you're going to say some stupid things, you're going to, it's dumb, they can't edit this because they only put up raw material, right? And so all of that's going through my head even now. And but I guess the cool thing about my belief is that it trumps a lot of that, and it's taken a while for me to lean more towards belief than doubt, and that's part of my journey. So sorry, as you were, sir.
No. Period. That's literally it. That's go, Kelsey.
What for you fuels that belief? Like, I know that some people talk around mindset, some people talk around like physical support or emotional support. What is it for you?
That's a good question, eh? I think aside
Spiritual
from
support.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of those things. But I think aside from me being the living proof as well is a big part of it. But I think probably the main one, and this sounds really weird to say this, but the main one is just, it has to. Like, I have to believe in it. There's no other option for me.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've put so many hours, so many days, so many nights, so much time away from family and loved ones to work on my craft, to perform, to travel. I'm at the point now where I'm like, this is definitely, for me, it's definitely it's a God thing that I'm in this. And what that means to me is that there has been so much kind of work and so many you could call coincidences to get me to this point, which aren't really coincidences, right? And I'm just convinced. I'm convinced that the belief that I have in myself and kind of is a God thing. And the great thing about, and the mana enhancing thing about that is that is then, I guess, reflected into the belief that I have in other people. And so God hasn't only called me to believe in myself, but he's called me to take that belief and use it for people. I feel like any gift we're given from anyone shouldn't be a gift only for ourselves.
Hey.
And so something for me is that I feel that the belief I have in other people is God given.
Let's go.
Yeah, and I think that really extends to the youth work that I do. It extends to the meaningful songwriting I do. It extends to the work I do in theatre shows. It extends to how I talk to my wife. It extends to how I discipline my child. It extends to the smile I give the random person I don't even know who they are that's beeping at me on the road. That might not always happen, but I think you see where I'm going with this, right? That belief, it really kind of, and it's almost when it reflects to other people, it magnifies. And I feel like it magnifies in me. And so that's what I mean by when I say like I have to. There's no other choice, because it's so ingrained in who I am that, and like I also said, that sometimes there's disappointment there, And sometimes I believe in people that let me down. Sometimes, but they're not letting me down because, like I said, it's about my output of belief as opposed to the input. Because my output's the same, man. I believe in you 100%. If you don't believe in yourself, let me be that belief for you. You know, until you can pick it up yourself. Because there were people that did that for me. Yeah. Yeah.
I think particularly for young people who are navigating the world and trying to figure out who they are, that belief in them from, like, I know for myself, from my experience as a young person, particularly between like 14 and 18, I had no faith in myself or no belief in myself that I was worth even being here for. And that was a really tough journey, but there were people that believed in me, and that's what kept me going.
Yeah.
In a time when I had no faith for myself, no faith in myself. So, yeah, I really value how you navigate the world. I think it's really important, particularly for young people.
Thanks, Kels. Yeah, I think it's dangerous when we start to see that it is rare for people to believe in themselves. And it's scary that that's the world we're living in, or that's the world that, I don't want to admit that that's the world we're living in, but from someone who works with young people and, especially in a young person lens, that it's actually more rare than not to see people that are confused, see people that are unsure, that are uncertain, that like you say, don't know who they are. And man, there are so many variables and reasons why this is a thing, but I think that it's rare to see people that are so confident and believe in themselves, which can be a scary thing. And and I know that I can't go out there and change the whole world, but if I can impact one young person, or if I can impact, or the current situation is if I can impact my team of youth workers that work with me, to then go out and impact young people, like I feel like slowly and surely we're doing a good thing, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I really value you and your team and the work that they do. Like, it's so important, and to be able to use creativity as a vehicle for that connection. So good. Yeah, so good. Wow, what a so good. I so wish that there was something like that for me when I was a young person, because I know that I could have, there would have been so much more opportunity for belief in myself. Anyway, we're curious.
But it's funny that it's funny, like you say, there'd be so much more opportunity, but do you think the opportunities was always there, but you just maybe couldn't see it, or you didn't have the belief in yourself to kind of go for it, or
For sure.
And I think that there's young people that are having opportunities, but because of the way they feel about themselves, they're deciding that, this person deserves it more than me, or she's prettier than me, so she should go and do that, or he does this and blah blah blah. And I just think that, man, there's so much that comes from a young person being confident in who they are, because like exactly what you said, there's these opportunities that are being presented, and I feel like they can step forward into those with confidence, and we can see a lot more young people achieving their goals quicker. And I want to say that achieving their goals quicker, because I feel like they'll eventually get there. I feel like if they're called to do something like that, they'll get there eventually. But it's about kind of taking that step early. Hey, yeah.
And if you can mitigate some mama along the way, then that's so much better.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. We're curious, what kind of stories have you archived? What stories have you inventoried or like placed at the back that you maybe aren't quite ready to have that conversation? Essentially, what is in your whākī? Let's
Go there.
Are you ready to jump in?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. So you say, what stories have I archived?
Yeah. Maybe there's like a little bit of mama around something, or maybe, you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that because I'm not quite sure how it's going to be received.
Yeah. I think I got it. Okay, so when I was 13, and this is just kind of the starting point, the intro to what I want to talk about. When I was 13, I had a pretty bad accident, and so that accident was I was running to my class. We had kind of just finished class. We're at school, and I was running to my next class, and I'm running down the corridor of our school, and like just kind of bouncing off the walls. I don't know if you guys ever did that when you're running down the corridor and like you're just running and there's lots of people, so you're just kind of like putting your hand on the walls just to bounce. And sounds really weird when I say bounce, but anyway, what happened was I put my hand up on the wall and I didn't realize that half of my hand, well, a little bit of my hand was actually in the hinges part of a big metal door. Have I told you guys to say? Did I? No. Okay. A big metal door. And basically what happened was, long story short, was there was this guy on the other side of the door that just kind of woke up that morning and was like, I feel like slamming a big door today. And basically what happened was, he slammed the door and sorry, Kelsey. You
So
look like
gross. Out already.
Yeah. I'm trying not to say too. I won't say too many details, but basically, my reflex as he slammed it, because I'm like Spider-Man, I've got fast as reflexes. My reflex was to quickly pull my hand away. And so you're really struggling what to say.
I am.
I'm gonna go there. You told me to go there. To go there, so I'm going there.
Go hard. I'm just
pull my hand away, and basically what happened was, my finger, my pinky finger got cut off from the top tip of this part, right? As you can see that. Now what happened was actually, my reflex kind of pulled all the skin off, and my bone was just sticking out of there. And long story short, basically they took me to hospital. Did you know that they wrapped me in a bandage for about 6 hours before they did anything? So they cleaned it, then put it in a bandage, and then it was just there with my bone sticking out for 6 hours. And I know this because it happened during school, and they didn't come and get me to operate on me until Shortland Street was on. That's how I know that's how I know the time difference. Anyway, long story short, they ground, like, is it ground? Is that the plural for grind? Yes. They ground it down, and then basically pulled the skin over, sewed it up, blah, blah, blah. And haven't had any problems since. I was taking piano lessons at the time. So I stopped those lessons. And so I feel like if this hadn't have happened, I wonder if my main instrument would have been the piano, which is quite interesting. But all that to say, the reason why I'm saying this story is that when I got back to school, I had a lot of, there was a lot of pain, obviously. This was sore for ages, okay? For probably like 6-7 months it was sore. I had that weird thing where I felt like the end of my pinky was still there. So it just felt like, and a lot of people who get like, what was it called? Amputations, they have this weird kind of sensation where they feel like the missing part is still there. And it's just this weird thing that your body has to get used to. The good news is I lost a bit of weight from it, which is good. Nah, just kidding. But I, so I was in pain for a long time. Hey, I'll take the wins.
I cannot with you.
I'll take the wins as they come. Sweet. 30 grams off.
30 grams?
And I was in pain for a long time, man. It was sore. But eventually that pain kind of finished, which is the good thing. But the worst type of pain that I feel like I felt in high school especially was definitely some of that mental health stuff, because that's not like this. That's not like the physical pain that is painful and can really hurt, but eventually it finishes and it ends. With mental health and the mental pain we go through, sometimes that can last forever. Sometimes until you sit down with someone and really talk through some stuff, it just magnifies and can extend to your family, to your kids. All right, if it's not dealt with properly. And for me, if you're asking me what a big far cue in my life was, or a big kind of thing that I borderline not sure I want to talk about, is probably my dad leaving when I was a little kid. That's probably it. I'll say that part after actually, but basically when I was 2 years old, me, mum, my dad, we lived in Australia. We had moved over there, and for whatever reason, me and my mum actually came home. He stayed there, and I think the intention was for him to come and join us eventually, but that never happened, and that was the last I had ever kind of heard of him. So there were no calls growing up. There was no happy birthdays. There was no Merry Christmas. Nothing like that. No presents. No money. No anything. That's why, man, I love my mum to bits, and that's probably why I'm such a mama's boy, is because she really took the reins and really was that mum and dad for me growing up. And shout out to my stepdad that came onto the scene when I was about 8 years old, and and that's why I say I've been brought up in a Maori family, because he's Maori. So my real dad's Samoan, he's stepdad's Maori, and my mum's obviously as white as they come, which is great. And blonde hair, blue eyes, my mum is, and so I was really hoping that my kids get blonde hair, blue eyes, because apparently it skips a generation. Yeah, apparently so. I didn't get that with my first boy, so hopefully this new kid that's coming.
It's coming through. It might be still coming through.
That'd be cool,
there might be a late bloomer for the first boy.
True, yeah. Anyway, where was I? So we had come back to New Zealand, and my dad had not kind of never come back. Now that as a 3-year-old, that doesn't. I'm not able to articulate exactly what this means as a 3-year-old. And kind of growing up, 3, 4, 5, when I started school at 5, there were some questions that started to come up for me that I wasn't ready to answer, that I don't think my mum was ready to answer. And some of those questions were things like, why are all the other dads coming to pick up the kids from school? Like, where's mine? Well, I know where he is. He's in Australia, but why isn't he here? I feel like as a 5-year-old, I didn't know how to articulate. I didn't know the answer to those questions. And I remember starting to feel this type of way about abandonment and about feeling like I had been left. I started to ask myself questions like, was it my fault? Could I have been a better kid? Could I have done this? Could I have done that differently? And maybe they would still be together. Maybe my dad could come and pick me up from school. Maybe my dad could stand on the sidelines to my rugby games as a 5-year-old. So I started thinking all of these things, and I think as that progressed in my schooling life, I started to people talk about phobias and fears of different physical things. But you can actually have phobias of different feelings as well. And I think for me, I started to develop this phobia or this fear of feeling abandoned. And I didn't realize this, and I want you guys to understand, I didn't realize this until I was in my 20s. And what this fear of abandonment meant was that I would do everything that I could, everything, even if it meant harm to myself or, it wasn't good for my own health. I would do everything I could to keep people close to me. And in high school, that's the worst thing you could do. In high school, it meant that I was constantly on the lookout for friends, no matter how they treated me. I was constantly in the lookout for meaningless relationships. I was constantly on the lookout for, all of these things that were detrimental to my own well-being. But what it meant was that people were close to me and they wouldn't leave me like my dad did. And I didn't realize this until I actually had realized that man, I need to get some counseling around some of this dad stuff, some of daddy issues, for better words. And it was in my 20s, and it wasn't until my 20s that I got some counseling around it. And I just remember feeling so like enlightened about some of the stuff. Like, yeah, sure, there's the faith part of it for me. That going, like, as a 15-year-old, going through church and getting prayer and kind of understanding that God really filled that hole in my life, which was amazing. But God also puts people like experts in place to help you work through stuff. And so I'm not one of those Christians that's like, we don't need counselors because we have God. I'm not one of those people, okay? And I think that there are benefits of both, right? And so I made sure that I got some good counseling, and I was able to work through some of those stuff. And it was epic, man. I started to realize, man, I've had this fear for so long. It explains a lot of my friendships from high school. It explains so much around holding on to them even though they treated me like crap. Now, if any of my friends are listening, it probably doesn't mean you, but you're probably my friends now, so it doesn't matter. But it just explains so much. And I remember, that year that I kind of finally got counseling around this, was the year that I really started my healing around some of these dad issues that I had. Man, shout out to counselors, man. I'm such an advocate for breaking down the stigma of going to counseling, because counseling is like legit, and like especially for young people where most counseling is free. Man, like, I understand people say counseling is like a real, thing. You're crazy if you go counseling. Nah, man, not at all. Not at all. It is the bee's knees. All right, go and do it. But basically, so that started my healing process with these daddy issues, and I knew that a big part of that healing process was getting in touch with them. And so, funnily enough, what happened was my auntie, so my dad's sister, got in touch with me through a YouTube video of me singing. Funnily enough, again, music connected again.
Right.
And basically said, look, we'll pay for your flights, come over to Australia. You could stay with us. If you guys know Australia well, my whole family is in like Doonside, Blacktown, Mount Druitt, which is like Samoaville, right? And basically they took me over there. And I remember walking into my grandparents' house, which is where my auntie lives. I remember walking in I think I might have been like 22, 23. Walking in, and the first thing that my grandma says, haven't seen her in 20 years. First thing she says is, I've been praying for you every day. And I just remember far out, like that just blew my mind. Like that in general. And what we were talking about earlier of having ancestors and having people in your life that are praying for you. And, and my whole life, I wouldn't have even acknowledged that. I didn't even know it was happening. But there are probably things that I got to benefit from and I got to experience from because there was someone in Australia that I wasn't even thinking of that was praying into my well-being, and I loved that. Long story short, I'm talking to my nana, and then this big black ute turns up in the driveway, and it's my dad. And again, it's the first time I've seen him in 20 years. He basically comes in and he goes, he says hello to his mum and his sister, and then he just goes, boy, get in the car. I jump in the car, he takes me to Starbucks, and we just talk. We talk for a good 3 hours, and it was healing. It was really healing. He apologized for not being in touch. He's got a beautiful family there. Now he's engaged and he's got 4 kids, 3 beautiful girls and a young son who's like the man at rugby. And they all have kids now too. The same time I had my kids. So it's turning into a beautiful picture, or a beautiful story that didn't start too well. But when you look at it in the bigger scheme of life, is that the first 20 years was a little bit average. Well, less than average, let's be honest. Less than average. But there's so much more life to be able to really mend this relationship. And, it hasn't, I'm not going to say it's gotten way better. Maybe I don't think he's very good on social media. He texts me, he messages like happy birthday and Merry Christmas and stuff like that now, but that's about it. But when we've been there a couple of times over the last few years, he's always made it a point, like we go out together to dinner with his whole family and stuff like that. And he's like, when we go away and do an Australia road trip, you guys need to come. And so there's all this mending that's happening, and that has happened, that's just left my heart feeling like really, really full when it comes to my daddy issues. And if anything, I feel better. Like, yeah, sure, I had a tough first 20 years with it, but I feel like I'm blessed because now I've got this Samoan side that I'm getting to know and that I love. I have my mum's Pākehā side that have always been there, but I also have my stepdad's side that have always been there.
Hey.
And so now I have all these three sides, and a big part of and I know I was sharing this to you guys earlier that I've always felt like I haven't been Samoan enough because I haven't known my dad, I haven't known Samoa, I don't know how to speak it. Although I'm taking Samoan language lessons right now, which is great.
Let's go.
I haven't known how to speak it. I haven't felt Pākehā enough because of my brown skin. And I haven't felt Māori enough because I actually don't have any Māori in me. Any Māori blood.
That we know of.
That we know of. Yeah, that we know of. Right? And so there's been these three aspects of my life that I haven't felt like I've fit in culturally. I tried things, like I tried to join the Samoan cultural group and stuff, but still felt like I was out of my place. But it's only been, and this is recent as, like literally in the last 12 months, that I've actually come to the conclusion that rather than feeling like I don't belong to any of these three, man, I'm blessed because I am fully all three of them.
Right.
And that's all I need to remember, that I can lean on either. And
right.
If anything, I feel like I'm probably more blessed than people that only relate to two, maybe, or so I'm lucky and I'm blessed in that way, and I'm really excited about what that looks like for my future, leaning into these different aspects of it. Because my history and my ancestry really excites me or really interests me. So I've done the whole ancestry.com thing and dated right back to all three sides of my families, and that's been really interesting. Understanding that on my Māori side, it dates right back to the first Croatians that came to Kaitaia, and like so we're connected to the first Croatian Māori marriage, which is crazy. And then like just little stuff like that just really fascinates me, And then my Pākehā side goes all the way back to Ireland and like Vikings basically. Yay. And so I love it, man. I love it, and I'm excited, and I'm not saying I'm where I want to be, but I'm in a lot better place than I once was, and there's been lots of healing around it, lots of friends and family that have really supported me in that, and but also it's been a big personal journey as well. So if anyone asks me kind of who I am or what culture I am, I basically say, look, I'm Pākehā, Samoan, Māori. All of the above. Instead of what I used to do was I used to change it depending on what setting I was in. Which is, I was in a big fancy corporate dinner with lots of Pākehā. I'll be like, my name is Tony O'Rourke. I'm Pākehā, or if I was with all my mates at a Samoan wedding or something and they asked me what I was, Samoan, I'm from Whalewha, Talofa.
Oroke.
Oroke. And then obviously, if I was, in a Māori setting at a tangi or like at a on a marae, then I'd just blast out my pepeha and I'd just do all of that. So like,
Oroke.
Yeah, I'm just over being a different person in different circumstances, eh?
Come through all the way.
And so I think that's contributed to that, and yeah.
What a beautiful journey too, and then like music and creativity weaves through all of that as well, like the connection back to your whānau through your music. Ooh.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Thank you so much for these beautiful shares. I know that's going to resonate, like different parts of those stories are going to resonate for so many people. So thanks
Thanks for
coming.
drawing them out. Thanks for drawing
And
them out of me.
yeah, and being willing and for showing up even when you maybe were a little bit whakamā to come through. So we recognize that. We see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If people want to connect with you, how are they best to do that?
I have basically a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
You down with the youth, eh?
Yeah, I also have a website, tonyjacob.co.nz, and that's kind of got all my music stuff. But Instagram's probably the main one that I kind of play around with. So it's just tonyjacob __. And
sick.
Yeah, but yeah, that's basically me.
Amazing. Thank you.
Never done that. Let me try that. Yeah, is that it? That's cool, eh? Heart.
Sarange.
It's a heart, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Korean love heart.
That's cool, man.
So me and Kelsey always do this, and then we extend it, being like, our love is endless, or the love is limitless.
Oh, I like that.
All right, so we started off with the jingle. We're going to round it off with the jingle for the recording part of it. Please join us in. The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Hey. The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Kia ora whānau. Thank
can
you.
Just give us a whistle note, please, for the fuck you.
See you later.
Ka kite.
Later.